Hello and welcome to a special UK elections talk show. As you may be aware, it's the local council elections on Thursday, May the 3rd. So please don't waste your chance to vote and have your say on Thursday. Today in the studio we have Narinder Kaur Kuna from the Labour Party.
Hello, Sashka.
We have Gurmeet Singh Sohal from the Conservative Party.
Sashka.
And we have Sukhi Kaur from the Labour Party.
Sashka, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Hello to all the guests. Thanks for coming and taking your time out, your campaigning as well. So can you start by telling us a bit more about which ward you're representing and a little bit more about yourself and why you think you should be elected?
Okay, so my name is Narinder Kaur Kuna. I'm standing for the Handsworth Wood ward in Birmingham City Council. I've been a councillor there for 12 years, so this is my 4th election. Whilst during my term, well, ever since I've been elected, I've worked really, really hard for the local area. I live in the area. I went to the local schools. My children went to the local schools, so I have a real vested interest in trying to improve services and facilities in the local area. And I try my utmost to bring in resources wherever possible. So I'm hoping that people will recognise the hard work that I do and vote for me on May the 3rd.
Thanks a lot. And Gurmeet?
I've been a member of the Tory party since 2006.
Yep.
Prior to that, the leader of the council approached the Gurdwaras to get the people from our community, nobody coming forward, and he requested some people should come from your community. So I asked a lot of my friends who could get involved in the politics, and everyone said, why don't you get involved yourself?
Yep.
So I fought my first election in 2007, then 2008 in Labour Strong Ward. I nearly turned around, and 2010, 3 elections. I lost all those 3, but 2008 I was very close to winning. And then I just remained as a member of the party and also been active as the association.
Yep.
And I was a deputy chair for political.
Mm-hmm.
Then I ran the election for 14 ward in 2011.
Yep.
And then in 2014 I got selected for Paddock ward, that's where I live. Then I won at the highest peak of the UK party at the time. I was the only one who gained votes rather than losing the votes out of those 20 wards in Walsall Council.
Okay. And Sukhi?
Hi, I'm Sukhi Kaur and I'm the Labour Party candidate for the Perry Bar ward in Birmingham. So I'm a new candidate. I'm not a sitting councillor like your other 2 guests here. So this is the first time I'm standing in the election. I live in the Perry Bar constituency, so I know the area of Perry Bar very well. I am very active. I'm chair of my neighbourhood watch. I'm also a member of the Street Watch team because crime's gone up in the constituency where I live. Street Watch was a police initiative where we go out and we patrol the streets. I've been a member of the Labour Party since 2015, and then I became very active during the EU referendum campaign. I campaigned for the Remain, and then when it was the general elections of 2017, I campaigned across the Midlands in all different sorts of seats, safe seats, marginal seats, seats that we were trying to win. Then I went through the panel process last year and I was selected as the candidate for Perry Bar in January, and since then we have been out every weekend over the evenings doing street stalls, really talking to residents, understanding their concerns, and putting forward a plan of positivity really, because the Commonwealth Games are coming to Birmingham and my ward Perry Bar is going to host the Commonwealth Games, so it's a big issue for residents. It's a time for excitement, but understandably there's a lot of concern for the residents that live near to where the stadium would be, and it's really about having those conversations with people from all backgrounds, listening to their concerns and having a positive plan going forward to address those and make the best of the Commonwealth Games for the area.
Okay, great, thanks a lot. So, sorry to confuse you all, but we know sort of what an MP does and represents the constituency in Parliament. But what is the role of a councillor? And sometimes I thought, do we need councillors as well? So, feel free.
Oh, you definitely need councillors.
So what do you guys do?
Right. So as councillors, as local councillors, so you have MPs and you have councillors. So the MPs, they deal with national policy, and obviously sometimes their role requires them to work on an international level. But the local councillors, we formulate local policy. We decide the local budgets in the area. So unless you're actually actively involved in politics, you don't understand a lot of people, obviously when we're on the doorstep, we're talking to people. A lot of people don't understand which decisions are made on a national level and which decisions are made on a local level. For example, one of the things that Suki's just said is that crime has gone up. Now, whilst people may think that that's the role of a councillor, it isn't. It's the role of the police, and the police are funded on a national level, so they get their funding from the government, right? So we work with the police, but we don't fund the police. Similarly with the NHS as well. We work with the NHS, and we try and, so we have health scrutiny committees, but we don't actually fund the NHS, because it's just conversations that we've had. So we formulate local policies. We also have local committees within the council. So with us, regulatory committees have a direct impact on local residents. So we have the licensing committee, and we also have the planning committee.
Yep.
And those two are regulatory committees that we have on a local level. Local councillors sit on there, and they determine the applications that people put in. So lots of in terms of like resources on a local level, so your highways, your environment, all those issues are dealt with by local councillors. Your parks, in terms of working with the schools, although we don't fund them, we work with them. So delivery on a local basis, engaging on a local basis, that's what local councillors do. So bringing in resources, supporting local communities, ensuring that the other statutory agencies work well with local areas, that's what we do.
Okay, so I was confused because obviously, you know, the MP that you'll vote for, they stand in an area, a constituency.
Yeah.
So you'd think locally you'll vote that MP in for your area constituency, but they'd have no, because I think, do they do weekly surgeries or monthly surgeries?
Most of them are monthly.
Monthly surgery. And can you bring up local issues with them, or?
Yeah, if it depends on the issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they'll look into it, or would they pass it on to a councillor, or?
It varies MP to MP. I mean, sometimes they'll say that they'll deal with it, but in fact they'll just pass it on to the councillor.
Okay.
Because we're the ones that deal with local issues.
I think the best way to think of a councillor is that you're like the accident and emergency of politics. So the day-to-day issues that you're most likely to deal with. I mean, on the campaign, the most amount of things that I deal with and that are concerns like fly tipping, potholes, bin collections not happening. We had the strike, obviously, that was an issue. There's a local government issue. So, you know, you could be dealing with anything from universal credit inquiries, bedroom tax and how that's adversely affecting housing. So, you know, you people come to you with an all-encompassing range of issues, and some you can sort, some you would then have to signpost to other statutory agencies. So, you know, I think the best way to describe it is like the accident and emergency of politics.
Probably.
Okay. So we talk about every town's got a council house, and that's the only way you'll see. You think, oh, that's where you're going to get things done locally. So how is a council set up normally? Because you know you're voting from different wards, but how, you know, who? Because you know you've got the Prime Minister, you've got all the secretaries of state in Parliament. But how would that work in a local council? How is that organised?
So each council has its own setup, and each leader decides how they want to move things around. So currently, the way that we have the council is that we have the leader and the deputy leader.
So this is the Birmingham City Council.
That's Birmingham City Council.
But will they be on the same sort of same party then?
Yes.
They have to be the same party. Okay.
Most of the time. I mean, again, it's the decision of the ruling party.
Okay.
So it's a party that's in power. How do they want to set it up?
Yep.
Do they want to give some of their cabinet positions to the opposition?
Yep.
Do they want to give vice cabinet positions to the opposition, or do they want to just give it to their own
how does it normally work? Will they normally give it to their own councillors, or?
Most of the time people will give it to their own councillors.
Okay.
At the moment there are discussions whether, you know, we do give the vice chairmanships to the opposition. So those discussions are happening. But previously, whichever party's been in power, whether that's Labour, Tories, I mean, Lib Dems have never been in power, so they're not even in the equation. But
they're just a prop to either party, aren't they?
I think Lib Dems were the local councils in Solihull, weren't they?
They went into coalition. So basically,
they act as like a prop, don't they?
Yeah.
So they'll either prop up a Labour council or they'll prop up a Conservative
It's hard
council.
because people won't vote Lib Dem because people will see, oh, they'll be wasting their almost vote, which is quite hard for a party.
Yeah. So with the Lib Dems, because I mean the Lib Dems, because of the promises that they made at the last general election, the previous general election, and then they didn't stick to any of their promises. I think a lot of people are disheartened about that. But so what tends to happen with the Lib Dems is whichever party, if like for example, neither party are in power,
Yep.
so it's like a draw, they'll say, okay, well, we'll add our councillors' votes onto yours,
Yep.
and you can then form the administration. So that's kind of how they've worked in Birmingham in the past.
Okay.
So in Birmingham, they've partnered up with the Tories in the past. But at the moment, it's the Labour Party that's very much in power in Birmingham City Council.
Can I ask you each individually, like, how you got into politics, and do you have a current job at the moment? Because I know MPs are full-time and they get paid full-time wage for that, but how does it work for councillors? Do you get a salary, or do you get a bursary, or?
I think with the councillor is at the moment you're employed for 16 hours, so it is seen as a part-time role, and then you will get an allowance in accordance to that. Now myself, I stood because I've shadowed actually Narinder for several years, watching her as a councillor, and it's not what I've seen is not a part-time job. It's very intensive.
It's more than a full-time job.
Okay.
So you don't actually get an allowance, actually, you get a remuneration.
Yeah.
So what happens is you'll get a remuneration. If you're a councillor, you definitely don't do it for the money,
Okay.
right, basically.
It's not.
Then how would you do a full-time job? Can you do a full-time job at the
A
same
lot of
time?
people do,
Yep.
yeah. So we do get a lot of councillors who are accountants, solicitors, have quite high-profile jobs, and then they're a councillor as well. So, but then you would need to make sure that you stayed as a backbencher, because you simply cannot take on a position as well as being in full-time employment. Now, personally, I don't have another job, so I've dedicated all my time to being a councillor. And I have taken, once my children have grown up, I didn't take any additional roles when my children were younger, but now that my children have grown up, I've taken on additional roles. So I've been chair of scrutiny, I've been chair of, so the scrutiny committee I was chair of was partnerships, contract performance and third sector. I've been chair of trust and charities, I've been a shadow cabinet member, I'm currently assistant leader of the council.
Is that Birmingham Council?
Birmingham, yeah. So I've taken on roles when I could manage the additional time on top of my full-time commitment. So it's very difficult to, I would say, allow 16 hours unless you're a real part-time councillor. I mean, personally, I think if you haven't got the time to dedicate to being a councillor, you shouldn't put yourself forward, because you're lying to the electorate. For example, in some wards, you've got people who are full-time, working on a full-time job, and then they're saying that we're representing you as well. Well, if you're not available for local residents to contact in the daytime or whenever they want.
How would they contact you? Would they phone you? Do you have your mobile
Emails,
number?
Email is how
phone,
it
email.
goes.
Surgeries on a week. I think you have like weekly surgeries
The weekly
as well.
surgery, yeah.
So like Narinder, I don't have a full-time job, and
Yeah.
the reason I stood as a candidate was because this is something I wanted to do full-time and dedicate myself completely to it, because local government at this moment in time is struggling with them national cuts. So Birmingham City Council has lost £650 million worth of funding since 2010. We're looking to lose another 123 million over the next 4 years. So it's a really tough place to be, and I just think now with the all-out elections happening, local residents need councillors that are on the ground there, ready to help, assist and signpost as needed.
Okay. So,
Can I come back on this one?
Yeah.
On this question. I have my own business, electrical business in the town, and I have a lot of people coming to my office. You'll be surprised. 1 to 5 people came in, and I live in the ward, which is handy. And people ring me, and they come to my house, they come to my shop, and they ring me and send me email. It's very demanding job, and the beauty of there's one beauty of this one. I don't have to spend any time during the day, because I'm not a cabinet member, and most of the meetings are happening in the night time, in the evening after 6 o'clock, except the planning meeting is 5:30. I've been on the planning committee for 2 years, and this year I'm on different committees. So 6 o'clock after the work, I can go there. If I have any issues there, I can nip down during the daytime to the council house, and anything sorted. Most of the stuff is sorted over the email or telephone. If there's any urgency to go there, it just takes me a couple of minutes to get there.
So just speaking of that, Gurmeet, we'll stop yourself, because obviously you two are both Labour candidates, and Gurmeet's obviously the Conservative candidate. So tell us, why do you feel that your party, because obviously council, although you say you vote for the council itself, you normally stick to a party. So a Labour party, a person that votes Labour will probably vote for a Labour council, and Conservative will vote for a Conservative council.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No,
Would you say?
because the thing is, I mean, I work really hard, like I said, in my local area, and people who understand the difference between a local candidate and an MP, a councillor and an MP. So I get so many people who are active in politics, and they'll say to me, well, normally I'm a Tory voter, but because I know that you're a good councillor, I'll vote for you.
Yeah, you might get that in MPs as well when they've got that feeling. So, for example, you're standing as a Conservative.
Yeah, second time.
Yeah, second time. So, why do you think your party has got the public's best interests in place?
I mean, it's a jobs, it's a wealth creation. I mean, if there are more jobs, they got more tax revenue in.
Mm.
That's the main thing. If you don't have jobs, I mean, how the government can pay?
Complaining already.
And how the government can pay? Government has
Yeah,
got to
I
pay,
understand.
right?
Yeah,
they have to generate the money somehow. Only then they can pay.
Okay, so it's about management.
It's the management.
Management of the finances.
It's a
of the treasury.
budgeting. It's a budget. How you budget them.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
I as much as respect I have for Baji, it's the Tory policies, and if we look at employment alone, and we look that Conservatives like to tout this figure that we've brought unemployment down.
Well, is unemployment at the lowest level that it's been in the last?
You see, it's a false economy, isn't it? Oh yes, unemployment's down, but we have more in-work poverty than ever. We have more working family using food banks. We have more people in work, and we have the public sector whose pay has been frozen. And it's like people now, this is the first time in any generation.
The deficit?
There is no deficit, apparently. It's now been cleared.
There's a lot of deficit.
There's a huge deficit.
Huge deficit.
The point is, you're talking about this trickle-down economy. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and you only have to look at the state of local governments alone and the amount of funding that is being cut. You can't keep cutting and protecting the public on the cheap. Crime is on the up. Unemployment might have come down, but there are more...
I thought crime figures had dropped.
No, they haven't.
They haven't dropped.
In Birmingham, 2,000 police officers have been cut across the West Midlands. So crime figures aren't up, aren't down.
Yeah.
They are.
Do you think, as a council, you could? There's going to be austerity cuts. So it's cuts in the private sector as well, where people lose their jobs and they're moving around. They're trying to do 2 or 3 jobs to try and streamline the organisation, streamline themselves, and as a company. Do you think, as a council, that you could have done some of this beforehand and streamlined yourself, because it's always like you're saying, you're on a councillor and you're doing it for the wage that you're getting, but what about councillors and heads that are on huge salaries and stuff that you hear about, where they're getting
huge salaries?
Personally, my personal view is within the council, we're looking at the structure of the council in Birmingham at the moment. But, yes, I think we do need to look at the structure and make sure that we don't have too many top-heavy officers. So the structure of the council isn't so very top-heavy, because we need to have more officers on a lower level where they're actually delivering frontline officers, that sort of thing. And as a Labour council, we do try and protect as many frontline officers and frontline services as we possibly can. And what we've done is we've looked within the council to see, okay, well, what's the structure? Because we've had so many cuts in terms of staffing levels. We used to have 18,000 staff within the council. That went to 12,000, and that's going to be cut even further, right, to possibly 6,000. So because the number of staffing levels have been cut, that means when residents are trying to get assistance from the council, they're not getting the service that they were used to.
Yeah.
So they're then coming to the councillors, which means our workload is increasing. But what's happened in Birmingham is that we've had boundary changes, and as a result of the boundary changes, they're reducing even the number of councillors from 120 to 101, and that means that per councillor we've got more electorate to deal with. So not only is our workload going up, we've got more electorate to deal with. So our caseload's going up, yeah.
So, so you were saying the cuts were from 18,000 you had, and what year did you have 18,000?
2 years ago.
And now you're on to 8,000, is it?
No, nearly 6,000.
When's it going to go to 6,000 then?
In the next year, probably. So it's all been looked at, and what's happened is obviously the structure was.
But the council's still running, even though they've cut it. At
Yeah,
that
but
level.
then
it's running a very
difficulty.
substandard service, isn't it? So you take fly tipping, for example. So you have fly tipping across the city, and then what we need enforcement on fly tipping to deal with the issue.
So fly tipping, you could say, is in certain areas, it's in certain you know,
Yeah.
there's certain communities that think fly tipping is perfectly normal,
Yeah.
and certain communities that wouldn't think fly tipping is normal. Would you not say that's because of the way that the demographics and cultures are changing
I
in
think
the city?
that's
That's
one
one
aspect
of the
of it.
factors.
Yeah, so one of the factors. So
it.
what can the council do with that when the demographics have changed in the city because of the immigration
the thing
policies
is,
that
not
we've
just
had?
it's not all about what the council can do, it's what residents can do as well, because I think residents need to take ownership as well. I mean, it's quite a lot of the fly tipping, to be quite honest, in my area. What we find is it's not people from that immediate area that's fly tipping. You've got people from outside coming with their truckloads and they're just dumping rubbish in certain areas. So
Yeah.
what we try and do is we try and find evidence in that fly tipping to see, well, who's fly tipped it, and if we can prosecute, we'll try and prosecute. But again, it's all about resources,
But
isn't
what do you
it?
think, like, for example, the refuge and the centres that you have? So people are fly tipping what? Because the costs of taking their trucks and lorries and doing it.
Yeah, and that's
in the legal-
that's all the cuts that people are having.
Yeah.
So all the extra taxation, you know, all the struggles that they're having financially as businesses as well as individuals. So you know, because of the cuts, is having an impact, an all-round impact, isn't it? So people they're taking their rubbish, and rather than disposing of it and paying to dispose of their rubbish, either through the council or through private contractors, they're going to dumping it in places, which is you know, it's costing the council more money, you know, but that's not something that's our control. As a local council, we don't control how the small businesses are taxed, do we?
So I'm asking. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's one of the issue is all the tips, in especially in Walsall Council, they are closed and open at different days. I know.
Okay.
I just moved house. Every day we used to take van load in the jeep.
Yep.
Every morning. Even we didn't even remember which day is open. So one day we went to the wrong tip, right? So that means you have to go to the different. One is in Aldi, one is Bloxby, 5 months difference. I think a lot of people who they might think, oh, I've got time. I'll just put the rubbish anywhere, where nobody sees us.
So
It'll do the more damage.
That's different
It
because
costs more money to the council.
Coventry's open every day. The tips, so we don't have that.
In Birmingham, they're open every day. I mean,
Yeah.
it's individual councils making individual decisions, like I say, in terms of what. So they're having to cut down services wherever they decide they're going to cut the services. So, for example, I know in Birmingham we've had to cut down some of the library opening hours because
Yeah.
they simply can't afford to keep them open. Yeah. Full time, so they can't afford the staffing. So we're having to find other ways around it. So we're looking at, okay, how can we have community
Would
libraries?
privatisation sort of help in that
look at Carillion,
environment to
look
try
where
and cut
Capita's going.
the costs down?
Well, the council's exploring all different avenues to see, well, how can we, for example, the golfing centres, they've been given to a company called My Time Active. So they've got a contract with My Time Active, and they're managing the Birmingham City Council golf clubs. And so they've got a contract where they've got to bring them up to a certain standard, but they've got to, during that, as part of the service level agreement, they've said that they've got to ensure that the fees that they charge don't go above a certain amount. So they're still making sure that local residents are getting value for money. So, and they're able to use the facility as well. So where it's appropriate, they are looking at that. For example, I think Harborne Pool, again, that's been privatised. So it's like some of the services, they are looking at that, but in other areas that they're not able to, and they're just trying to manage things in a different way. It's a constant struggle with everything.
Do you think it's right then that the council tax, because I think it was it frozen for nearly 5 or 6 years? Now it's starting to, is it rising in Birmingham and Walsall?
There's a very slight increase,
There has been rise in Walsall as well. It was frozen for I think 2 or 3 years.
Okay. Do you think it's
And,
right?
I don't think people mind paying the tax. It's the frontline services which are more important,
But do you
like
think,
policing.
see,
I'm
glad
not hearing that on the
I'm glad
doorstep.
I didn't live in the Birmingham
I do,
constituency,
yeah.
because do you think it's right that the taxpayer is paying for an increase in council tax when bins weren't even collected in the year 2017?
I think you pay something like £9 going towards the bin, so I don't really think that's really a very valid argument, to be quite honest, because everyone seems to think that because you pay council tax that pays for all your bills. Well, it doesn't. That's a very, very small portion.
How did that fiasco happen, the Labour Party, that
it wasn't the Labour Party, actually. What happened is, under the Tory administration, some of the crew members who were at different levels, right? So some of the ones which were paid at a higher rate which was supposed to be the supervisors, were being paid, so they were paid one rate, and then you got ones who were working under them paid a certain different rate. But then what happened is the way that service changed, they ended up doing the same job, but one was getting paid more and one was getting paid less. Now that's not equality. So you've got to ensure that there's equality. So the people who were going to be either downgraded, they were actually offered jobs at the same level in another part of the service, but they decided not to take it. So they were saying, well, either you got the option of going down to the level that you're actually working at and getting paid at that level, or alternatively you can stay at the level that you're at, but we can find you another role that's compatible with that role. But then they decided to go on strike. So Birmingham City Council managed it as best as they could.
But did it cost more in the long term with all the striking? I think that it
Well,
would have been
that's just the way.
But then solely this is the thing that annoys people like me, for example, that's watching it and thinking, you're seeing on Central News and ITV News and BBC News, the bins, there's rats everywhere, that and you think that this is a Labour council which is supposed to be caring, and it's been ongoing day in, day out for
Well, the Labour council were trying to sort it out and making sure there was they did in the end. They were trying to make sure there was equality. Well, it was because what happened is they kept trying to negotiate around the table, but then it was taking a lot longer than they anticipated. But that was something that should have been dealt with when the contracts were given in the first instance. When the Tories, it's just like the equal pay fiasco.
Okay, sure. Can I ask? So let's go into another more a different question on that. What, as individually, if you can answer this, what can you do in the council for the Sikh community? What can you bring into it, being a Sikh representative?
Well, I think in Birmingham City Council at the moment, there are 3 Indian councillors out of 101 we're looking to return. If I was to be elected, I would then be the 4th, so we would have 4 Indian councillors out of 101. So I think the very first thing you'd be doing is you'd be increasing your representation. Now, for myself, being a new candidate, one thing I would bring is enthusiasm and passion, because I've had a wide range of life experiences, and I went into this role openly knowing that you have to be on hand to help people. And with my own community, obviously there's the language issue, so I'm able to converse with my Sikh community, listen to their issues, but not just for the Sikh community. Perry Bar is very, very diverse. It has a good mix of people, and being on the doorstep, I've been able to forge good relationships with people from all across the community. And that's the one thing I know I can definitely bring, is be a representation for the entire ward, because at the moment residents are saying to me, well, one part of the ward is saying, oh, the sitting councillors are fabulous, while another part saying, I've never seen a councillor or a candidate knock on my door in 18 years. You're the first person to do that. And just because I did that and I made contact with them and I told them what my ambitions were and how I could see their area improving, they're now going to vote for me. So it's having that people, that contact, knocking on their door, talking to them, telling them who you are and what you can bring.
And Gurmeet?
When you say about the Sikh community, I don't represent Sikhs only, I represent everybody who lives in the ward. And it's not just a matter of Sikhs only, I'm a councillor for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. But there's one benefit though. I was the first Tory elected councillor in Walsall.
Okay, wow.
And there was a Labour councillor. There at the moment there are 2 councillors in Tory party and 1 Labour party, the Sikhs. Only 3 at the moment out of 60. Prior to this one, there was only 1 4 years ago. And it's the number. I think it helps. Hopefully, after Thursday, we could have 5, could have 6, could have 4. Any numbers, which it helps. More numbers number are there. It makes a lot of difference. And you help people, the community, and there's some other issues as sports. And the Gurdwara, any planning, any issues, and it could be planning, and housing. Housing is a separate entity in Walsall, which is Walsall Housing Group, so we don't control that one.
Okay,
and the other things, roads, the parks, and clean and green, everything, any type of issues, right? Potholes, you don't know what's going to come tomorrow, and we can be busy all of a sudden, and it's just a moment of spur. Anything can change.
Okay, Narinder?
Similarly to my colleagues here, although I'm a Sikh councillor, I represent the whole community, and I always have represented the whole community, because it's the electorate that elected me. But being a Sikh councillor, the benefit that you would have is that if there are issues which are affecting the Sikh community, being a Sikh myself, I can put those issues forward. I can try and make sure that within policy that's incorporated. So an example of that is, for example, one of the things that I've worked on is food labelling, and that's an issue that a lot of people are concerned about. So, you know, as Sikhs, I know we have baptised Sikhs and we have non-baptised Sikhs. Yep. And non-baptised Sikhs do eat meat, but you're not supposed to eat richly slaughtered meat. Now, what was happening is a lot of the meat that was on offer by even some of the, you know, the big corporations and stuff was halal meat. Yep. And it wasn't being labelled. So unknowingly, people who were eating meat were eating. I see
what you're saying. So from that point of view, you know that Sikhs, for example, are so quiet in politics. They're only just getting into the political domain. You know, we've got the first turban Sikh in MP. We've got Preet Kaur Gill, which is Labour's Edgbaston. Why were Sikhs so quiet in politics? Why is it taking so long for us to actually start making a stand as MPs and as councillors?
Well, I've been there for 12 years. Yeah. So I think what it is within the Sikh community, a lot of the Sikh community, they're well educated, they have good jobs, and their focus is around their careers. So they've not really engaged in politics. And they've not really understood the importance of politics, I think, and how it impacts their everyday life. They've just been so busy with, like, you know, their businesses and, you know, their firms and their private, you know, their own careers, that they haven't really engaged in politics. But it is really important that we do engage in politics, because politics actually impacts everything. It impacts your children's schooling, their education. For example, in Birmingham at the moment, one of the schools in my area, they've had their funding cut again from a national level, and they can't afford to stay open for 5 days a week. So they're looking, a school. So they're looking to close their school on a Friday at 1 o'clock because they're saying they can't afford to stay up.
What age is this? Primary school?
Primary school, yeah.
Is it? Yeah. This is really that they can't.
Yeah.
There's several schools.
So obviously each school makes the decision how they want to use their funding, and some of them.
And is that going to get the go-ahead? Do you reckon? Because would that not be seen as an illegal sort of?
No, well, the schools manage their own budgets. So some of them, for example, are having to dismiss teachers. Some of them are having to cut back on the materials they're providing. Others have decided to keep the teachers and keep the materials, but then cut back on the schooling hours. So each school makes its own decision as to how it wants to move forward within the budget that it's been given. And again, like I stress,
but, you know, I see the same as my kids go to this a primary school as well. But when you facing budget cuts and budget issues and stuff like that, what normally happens is the PTA normally have fundraising events and stuff like that, try and promote the parents to, instead of having this culture of me in giving back. For example, I know not all parents can afford to say, oh, okay, here's £100 or £500 or giving donations towards the upkeep of the school, but you know, sometimes they're seeing
that is happening. I mean, there's been several really high profile cases that you probably come across in the media where schools are writing to parents and explaining budget situations, and I think it's gone beyond the fundraiser where you do a little raffle and you raise about £600. These are budget cuts going into, I mean, there's a ward in my school that's lost £167,000 since 2010. You're not going to raise that kind of money even if you did a fundraiser every month.
Why would it lose that money? Who would decide?
That's a national policy.
But then who would decide locally who's going to get what?
Local has no say. All the Birmingham, as far as I understand, and excuse me if I'm wrong because I'm not a sitting councillor, the funding comes from above, and all Birmingham City Council does is distribute it to the schools.
No, they get it directly from above.
Yeah, then it's distributed.
So they get it from the government.
Yeah.
Which is why they're really rallying the MPs rather than the councillors, because we don't have a say in that, whereas MPs do. So that's why they're going to the MPs. Like, so we were at Bosuki and I were at a rally, Save Our Schools rally at the weekend.
In Coventry, Save Our School, or is there a...
That's a free school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's now you've got your two-tier education service now. So you have the free schools and then you have the locally maintained schools, and they are run.
So what's the difference between does a free school just get a set budget and say you decide it? But then that would be the same as a normal local school, wouldn't it?
No. So they get their budget from the government. and they sort of like write their own policies, and the local authority don't really interfere, or aren't able to interfere in terms of how they run their service, because they're a free school and they're managed by the government as well, whereas the local authority schools are managed by the local authority. But then what's happening is increasingly, so when
But didn't the government want more schools to become free schools?
the
And
Tory
to
government
yeah,
did,
to become independent of and set
Tory
their own
government.
budgets and look after that sort of.
Yeah, the Tory government did.
But that's not happening.
Well, we're getting a lot of schools are converting to academies.
Yep.
And again, some of them have made that decision because of finances, because they simply can't afford to carry on providing all the services.
Okay.
And sometimes they have to buy some services from the local authority, which costs them more than if they go outsource it.
Okay.
So what they're doing in terms of trying to manage some of their budgets, they're buying services, they're becoming academies, put an application for that, and then they're buying services from outsourcing them.
So, Gurmeet, just talking about schooling and stuff like that, a real hot topic, and it was seen as the elections, and I remember asking the questions, is grammar schools.
Yeah.
So the Conservatives are pro-grammar school, aren't they? And could you explain, well, your point of view, all the candidates, but yourself, for example, why you're pro?
I think why I'm not pro. It's the government. What they're trying to achieve is in a grammar school. Mainly the rich families can afford to send their kids. This is the scenario, right? And you got to get them tuition. You can't put them like my grandson. He's going to. I mean, there's a lot of preparation.
Yeah.
But not anybody in the
But I don't
street
think
can do
but
it,
then,
right?
see, you can say that, but then you can look online and you can get that sort of stuff. And kids that are bright normally in primary
But
school,
you need to have a time.
Yeah.
Parents have got to have time to spend the time. Parents have to be educated to teach the kids. Not all the parents can do it.
But then you've got your online facilities and you've got primary schools.
Even though, but you need to have computer, all these things,
Yeah.
right? You can't. Not everybody can afford. But it's a matter of the people from all the backgrounds, right? If they can go to the grammar school, it will be better for the kids in the future.
Yeah, I do understand. I mean, there are cases. For example, we had an MP here. He was actually an MP. His dad was a bus driver, and he says the saving grace for him that made him really which he did out of his own backbone, was just reading and working hard with a primary school. It just clicked with him, and he was able to get that education that someone that was a bus driver wouldn't be able to. Because there's a lot of Sikh communities that wouldn't be able to afford to send their kids to private school. A lot of people that have come in first.
I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't think we have to. I've never sent my kids to the private school. I mean, if they want to study, they can study in the normal school.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if a child is bright,
Yep.
it doesn't matter, like you say, where they go. They can, like, for example, my husband's friend, his daughter went to a normal comprehensive school. She came out of there with 10 A stars. And now she's been offered spaces at like Oxford and Cambridge, etc. So if a child wants to study, you don't have to go to a grammar school to sort of like achieve excellence, do you?
Can I just turn that question on its head a bit, because there's all this talk about grammar schools and helping the brightest minds excel, and I'm
can't afford it. It's a free grammar school philosophy, isn't it?
and that is fantastic. But where is this conversation for those children who are equally bright but have special educational needs, SEND schools? I mean, the funding, forget funding, the conversations around how do we support those children who struggle in schools?
Yep.
When you have we were talking about.
But isn't that why people were saying to get academies and get specialists in information technology or computing or science?
That's not how it works.
Or sports.
But they haven't got because now they're having to, like I said to you,
fill in those gaps.
They're having to, lay staffing off. So whereas before they could bring in, what's it called, the teachers that you have. Oh God, it's gone.
I heard them.
Teaching assistants?
Teaching assistants.
Yeah.
Teaching assistants. So they used to have teaching assistants, and they used to help children who needed that extra bit of support. Some of the schools having to lay them off as well because they simply can't afford it. It's just like really, really difficult. I mean, if you went to we went to the rally on Saturday, and some of the stories that were being shared by parents, by teachers, by head teachers, in terms of what they're having, the challenges they're having to face. It's really difficult for the schools as well.
And it was a lot of mums whose children had SEND needs, because like my own son was diagnosed with autism recently, and it's been a 4-year struggle, and that was just for the diagnosis. Now when it comes to support in school, I mean, his school is absolutely fantastic. They do the best they can for him, but that the climate that we're in, the resources to help all children, the ones that are struggling, the ones that are just making it, and the ones who are bright. There's a lot of conversation about pushing the average to bright ones, but what about the ones who are struggling and just need that help to just catch up? There has to be conversations, there has to be policy discussions, there has to be funding for those children as well.
See, you're saying funding and stuff like that, but because we've got Coventry, you've got Walsall, you've got Birmingham. I think we'll be trying to get a whole West Midlands Council.
We have got a combined authority.
So that combined authority that we've got, West Midlands Council, couldn't that be like a central hub, and then we could sort of share resources, cut the costs of certain not just councillors but certain council employees, where they'll cover the whole region? Would that not be a way to streamline it so that schools could get more fundings?
Funding would not even funding doesn't come at a regional level, does it? I think the West Midlands combined.
No, but say for example you've got Birmingham and you've got to pay for them council employees. Could them council employees that have been paid for out of Birmingham with this whole West Midlands combined also look after the boroughs of Walsall, Coventry?
It's too huge.
He's only covering
too huge to manage,
the certain
There's
things like transport at the moment.
Jobs and skills, homelessness, that comes under
So
the
they've got certain
sectors.
Certain topics that they're linking into. So they're looking at jobs and skills, homelessness. What was it?
It's mainly the
transportation. That's it.
Yep.
Connectivity and transportation connectivity. So they've got some topics, but I'm not aware that the money that's been given to the West Midlands combined, because obviously again we had a referendum to see if people wanted to have an elected mayor, and people said no, so that's what came back. But then an elected mayor has been forced on us, so we've now got an elected mayor, but I'm not aware that the funding that's been devolved down to the combined authority then gets disseminated into the councils. So for example, one of the things that I'm quite passionate about is jobs and skills. During my time as a councillor, I've hosted 7 jobs fairs in my ward. And that all initiated because when my first campaign, when I went and knocked doors and I spoke to people, the amount of young people, and I said to myself, is there anything that I can help you with? The amount of young people that came to me and said to me, can you help me get a job? And I thought to myself, all these young people are looking for a job. Why are there no jobs? So I thought, okay, what can I do as a local councillor? So then I went to the DVLA, and then I sort of like, they've obviously got links with employers, and then I invited all the employers without actual jobs, with actual training opportunities and apprenticeships, and I hosted my first jobs fair. The first one that I had at that point, we had that programme, do you remember Benefit Street?
Oh yeah.
And it
gave
bad publicity, so I decided to turn it on its head, and I called my jobs fair Employment Street.
Okay.
Yeah. So
was that your ward, the
Employment Street?
No.
Okay. That was Vincent Green.
Okay.
Yeah. So mine was not far from there, but so I called my event Employment Street, and when I had it at the fire station, and when the shutters went up, when the jobs fair opened, you have the January sales.
Yeah.
The people just rushed in, and and some people got offered jobs on the day.
Yep.
One employer, I think, he signed up 60 people that were interested in working for their organisation, so they were going to take it to the next level, training opportunity, and then hopefully lead to a job. So and because that was so successful, what I've tried to do is I've tried to keep on doing jobs fairs whenever I can. And it takes a lot of organisation and preparation, but it's worth it if you can try and help people get jobs or training.
Oh, that's a good idea. So Raj, Gurmeet, do you have any sort of function in Walsall, or any sort of activities that the Conservative Party do?
Such as
they've got jobs fairs. How do you try to encourage youngsters?
There's apprenticeship.
You have an
apprenticeship schemes there.
Yep.
And the Walsall College is doing a lot of stuff. And there are a lot of things that are happening.
Yeah.
There's a breakfast morning with some of the stuff, and they're interconnecting all the businesses. Okay. And Walsall is a small town. It's not even city.
Yeah, it is.
It's got only small numbers there. We are in a town got a population about 250,000, and there's nowhere it's near as Birmingham. So opportunities are less than Birmingham.
Okay, so as a councillor, could you run an event like that?
I don't think why not. If there's an issue there's a demand there, we can run anything. It's all up to demand. If people ask us, this is what we need, we can create anything.
Okay. So your ward, you're saying, is smaller than...
No, ward is not smaller. The town is smaller.
The town is smaller, yeah. and you've got the same cuts that you're
It's nearly 20 million cut every year.
20 million has been cut every year.
Yeah. But we only have budget of 750 million a year.
Okay. And do you think, as your ward, you can survive at the moment on that, or do you think that,
Ward or the council?
The council, sorry, can survive?
Yeah, obviously surviving. They're cutting down on the frontline services. They're just keeping they're keeping up the frontline services, and it's a prioritize. It's the prioritize what we do. Now what they've done is two weekly the bin collections. It's a labor control at the moment. It's 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
And some of the stuff, the garden stuff, they close earlier rather than up to November. And there are a lot of stuff which we need to change. It all depends who takes control.
See, it's so weird how councils run. So Coventry Council, for example, I'm not going to complain now no more. Is we have a 1 week recycling and garden.
Yeah.
The second week is normal rubbish, and it's done in that. So it's a weekly basis.
Birmingham's the same.
Well, we do the same.
Yeah,
The thing
2
is, I
weeks,
mean, unfortunately, in Birmingham, the Tories have decided to put out leaflets, despite being given reassurances time and time again that the Labour administration have no intention of going to fortnightly collections, that we will remain having weekly collections. I've just received a leaflet as I've walked out. Despite those reassurances being given time and time again in full council to the leader of the Conservatives, I've had a leaflet saying the Labour Party are saying that they're going to go to fortnightly collections. It's like, how many times do you have to be told we're not going to do that? We're keeping weekly. So what we have is our household rubbish is collected weekly. Yeah, so every week we have a household collection.
Yep.
So during the months of April and October, 1 week is household plus green waste, and 1 week is household plus recycling. Then household plus green waste, so it just alternates. But we have household every single week.
Of which we had the same services in also.
So obviously
But then was your service privatised, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it's by council.
Is it organised by the council?
But we are saying that if we take the control, we'll bring weekly services.
Okay.
Then how would you manage that with the budget?
Well, we have to think where we can reduce. It's how to manage the budget. Anything. It's like running a house. The same thing.
See, this is what I saw with council as well, even Coventry, and it's always in the papers and other ones, that because you've got the Labour and the Lib Dems and it's a shared sort of, it's almost like, because not one party's in control, this is where you get the conflicts, and two, you get a majority.
Yeah.
And this is where you're always going to have this bickering and who wants this and who wants that, just based on...
It's the policies, end of the day, isn't it?
So going back on homelessness, Gurmeet, for example, could the Sikhs and could the, as being councillors, do more? For example, on Saturday, I did some stuff with the Midlands Langar Seva Society in Coventry, and they give out free meals. And it's the first time I ever went. And I thought I'd do it before the show and see what people are, because obviously when you don't look at homelessness and you don't see that on the street, you'll think, why do we need austerity cuts, and stuff like that.
It's a massive problem, isn't it?
But MLSS, on Saturday we gave out 370 meals.
Yeah.
Which is, and that was in 4 hours in Coventry.
Yeah. I mean, they're providing this service in a lot of different towns. I mean, I went along with them a few times.
Yep.
And also, they haven't asked for it recently. I think a lot of other company are sponsoring them. Even the buses are given to them, and some vans. And originally, a lot of people really help them financially, as well as physically, which is quite important. I think this is what we've been taught this month. That's where it comes in. We should all help the less fortunate.
So I've worked with Midland Langar Seva. So I was approached by Bamma from Midland Langar Seva and Randhir. So they were looking at the time for some premises to store the food that they have prior to cooking it. And they were saying, we want to do two things. They go, one thing we want to do is we want to have Vasaki in the square. And the second thing we'd like help with is we'd like to have somewhere to store the food, prior to us cooking it when people are donating food. So at that point, I was chair of partnerships, contract performance and third sector. So I was working with a third sector organisation called Sea for Fireside. So Sea for Fireside used to serve food to the homeless in the daytime. And they had premises, but they were getting their budget cut. and then Middle Lanka Seva served food in the evenings. So I said to them, I said, well, why don't you have a conversation with each other so you can utilize their premises to store your food, yeah, and you can cook your food here, and the people that you serve food to can actually sit inside at the table and have a meal. And then in addition to that, the area where the canteen was, there were offices around there, and I said you could add and provide add-on support to people that you were serving food to. So if people had issues with alcohol or drugs abuse or needed help with, you know, welfare claims to try and get them off the homeless, you know, off the streets and things, you can do those add-on services. And then we did manage to get them some funding as well.
Yep.
And I think so part of that funding went to paying for the facilities. Obviously there was overheads to be paid for whilst they were using Seafair Fireside, but my understanding is they then utilised some of that funding also for some of the vans that they bought. I was told by Bama recently. So he goes, we then utilise some of the funding to have vans to provide the service as well.
So it's like what you were saying. So for example, we've got these stereotypes, we've got the homeless people, we've got our community as well, which should be doing Seva. Especially, you know, looking at homelessness, you'd think, oh, you'll see one or two people, and, you know, you're in your mindset like, oh, he's just going to spend it on drugs, he's just going to spend it on alcohol. But everyone's different, and you know, not everyone's had a great lucky upbringing. So some people had different, you know, issues since they were younger, and unfortunately they've fallen into that trap.
Yeah.
But you know, just like you were doing now, we've got so many Gurdwaras in these towns and in the UK. As a counsellor, and saying, you know, as someone who speaks Punjabi, you can obviously interact with a Gurdwara.
Yeah.
Could we push Midlands Lunga Society and other Lunga facilities in giving homelessness food with our Lunga that we have in Gurdwaras, for example, to the wider communities, and as a counsellor interact with that? Could you do that in Walsall, for example?
I think our Gurdwara has been provided the Lunga from the Kalma Gurdwara and some other Gurdwaras in Walsall as well. It's the poke, you can't serve the food. Yep. They've been preparing the food for a few days. I think the number has been changed. They used to, I think, do about four days. Now I think they're 2 days a week now. They prepare the food there and take it to sites. And the other Gurdwara, like there are 2 other Gurdwara, they helping them as well. I don't think there's any problem. But it all depends on the Gurdwara committees.
Yes.
Yeah, but it also,
you can't force.
As a counsellor, this is what I was going to say.
We don't have a role. We can't.
There's no way you would be able to, as a political party, go in there and say, or have a meeting and say, this is what we would like to do.
You can discuss. That's different.
So you can invite them and say, this is what we would like to do.
Yeah, for example, I mean, one of the things that I feel personally that Gurdwara should do is Gurdwara shouldn't simply be a place to worship, right? We've got Gurdwara, we've got halls, we've got rooms at the Gurdwara, and it's all funded by the Sangat, right? So there's lots of issues in terms of health and well-being in our community. So I feel that the Gurdwara could be used as a community hub for the community in terms of providing other services, providing other support services. You know, so I'm part of Sikh Women's Action Network.
And what do you Sikh Women's Action Network do?
So what we do is we support victims of abuse, whether that's domestic violence or whether it's child sexual exploitation or grooming. So we support victims of abuse, but so we do one-to-one support for them. But then we also raise awareness. So we deliver workshops.
Okay. We've just got a call now that's coming live with you. Hello, welcome to Sangat TV. Hello? Oh, I think we might have lost that call. Oh, sorry, you can continue speaking about sport.
Yeah, so we also deliver workshops, and a lot of our workshops at the moment are attended by statutory agencies. So we incorporate the culture and the honour aspect that act as a barrier for people coming forward when they're a victim. So we try and educate statutory agencies around that. But we have delivered workshops for around CSE and grooming for parents as well, just to educate them on the signs that they need to look out for if someone is a victim of abuse, and what the forms that are used by the perpetrators in terms of trying to entrap someone when they're going to be a victim, and also where to seek help. So we have delivered that workshop, and the impact that it has on the wider family as well as you know, especially with domestic violence, because quite often with domestic violence, people stay in a relationship that is abusive, thinking I'm staying for the kids.
Yeah, which a lot of people have to do.
But well,
They think,
they don't,
see, this is the thing. A lot of people, when I say have to do, see, that's my mindset already because of the community and the way the community thinks and the pressures that youngsters have.
Yeah, but then the thing is, it actually has a really negative impact
on the children.
So you're not doing your children any favors by staying in that relationship. You're actually damaging your children, because long term, even though the children might not verbally say anything, it does have a mental impact on them.
Okay, I think we've got another one coming through. Hello, welcome to Sangat TV. Hello. Hello, welcome to Sangat TV. I think we've lost this one as well at the moment. We might have some technical problems. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. See, this is a perfect idea of how you've got your austerity cuts, but the Sikh community and the other and even like businesses, for example, are bridging that gap, which is what we're going to have to do within this cuts. And it's really important that going forward as Sikhs is part of what we're supposed to be brought with. You know, it's fine going to the Gurdwara, making langar and feeding, but the thing is, we've got to look at it from that point. There's actually people that really, really need the food, and that's the whole point of langar, that everyone eats.
It's like thing is, at the moment in our community, a massive issue is mental health and well-being. I mean, look at how many suicides you hear of all the time.
Okay, yeah. So what we're saying is, you know, the fact that we as a community have to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
You know, with austerity cuts, which is like I was saying, the PTAs and stuff like that. That, you know, I know you're saying you can't ask children, you know, some schools to donate and every parent to donate.
The amount that a PTA can raise is nowhere near enough.
Yeah, which
to
what
fill
you're
the
saying.
gap. Yeah, so it won't meet the shortfall. So whilst that's one solution, a small solution to maybe some of the. I mean, one of the schools gave an example. They go, in our school we can't afford more than 2 Pritt sticks, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
and the staff
were having to buy them out of their own money.
Yeah, I've heard about teachers.
So you know, things like that. Yes, I suppose PTA fundraisers could help with.
Okay,
but
all right. Sorry to disturb you. Just got another call. Hello, and welcome to Sangat TV.
Hiya.
Hello. How are you live on Sangat TV?
Hello, Satrika. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Oh, thank you very much. I have a question. I've just tuned your channel right now, and I'm really pleased that there were counsellors around here. I'm from a Sikh family, but the problem is that last year, on the 12th of May, my house was very badly burgled, in the sense that we came under a hate crime, a serious one, and the forensic police department also confirmed that the intention of breaking in was not just stealing, but basically it was with the intent of harming us, severe harm. But I haven't been provided any sort of help, and I'm still in the same depleted house. It's been trashed very badly. They used my 30 kilograms of wheat flour, mixed it with water, and made the very sort of a liquidish pastry everywhere. Every piece of document, every piece of clothing was absolutely torn apart and destroyed.
That is absolutely awful.
And then the whole house has been absolutely broken. All wardrobes and the mattresses were virtually pieced apart. And I've got no help at all. My housing officer didn't help me. The counsellors have been writing to different people. Nobody has come to my support at all in any way. I'm just a disabled person. I'm finding it very, very hard to cope up with the situation. It's been nearly 1 year. And all that pantry which I had collected with great difficulty was because my dad was murdered brutally abroad in Delhi. And for the last 7 years, I couldn't really do any funeral for him. So that was sort of a langar items collected so that I can at least do the formalities and the funeral rites, being the eldest child of the family, for my dad.
Sure.
So after 7 year, and then everything is just in ruins.
Okay.
Absolutely ruins. I have no place, and for nearly nearly 11 weeks, me and my son, who escaped death because we were absent from the house, we spent nearly 11 to 12 weeks just on the car, roaming around during the night time in the town area.
Awful.
So what would you
I don't know what my
do to that
nobody
sort of
wanted to listen to me, and nobody has come up to my help, and
Sure.
I'm really so glad to see that
we can ask the counsellors
we've got 6 families, 6 counsellors. I really wish if somebody can help me out.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that call. So, thank you, Gandhi, for that call. So, what area are you in there? What constituency are you in?
I'm in Leicester actually.
In Leicester, okay. So what would you say on that front? How could you help as a councillor?
To be honest, I mean, if the lady's not had any help from the police, as a councillor, I would go to the police, and I would say, okay, well, this case is raised with me.
Well, I've been to the police. The police have they confirmed it's a dangerous burglary, it's a hate crime burglary. But things, different people are coming up with different sort of, different officers are like manipulating things, and then ultimately no help, no support, and I'm nowhere.
Yeah, well, you have victims. You have victim support that you can access.
Well, I've done that. I've done all my bets. I've done all my bets, but they can't do nothing at all.
Right. Well, there's a number of avenues. Like I said, as councillors, we work with the police. So, you can...
When my local councillors don't want to help me, do you think we can really, push somebody who can come up for the help?
We're in a difficult position because we're all Birmingham based.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you could leave your number with the producer and maybe we take this offline and maybe have a chat?
We're able to help.
Maybe, I think we need to have a
ways,
conversation in a different setting, Auntie G. I mean, it's absolutely
You're right.
awful what
You're
you've been
right.
through. So maybe if you could leave your number with
Yes, I
them,
would
with
be happy to do
Gyani G,
that.
that'd be
then one
perfect,
of us would give you a call back and we can at least
We'll all be
discuss
back, yeah. If
and
we can help you, yeah.
signpost in the right direction.
Yeah, that'll be really kind of you. But is it any way good enough for me to obtain your emails, please, so that I can at least relate some matter and we can at least be in contact? Because maybe because of my own disabilities and infirmities, I'm not able to take my calls all the time.
Okay.
That's my huge problem, and I'm very much traumatized living in this house.
Okay.
And in fact, I'm running away from house on one or the other pretext.
I think, Auntie, what we'll try and do then is if you leave the number with the producer, we'll get one of the councillors to give you a call back and they can try and help you on that front.
Yeah,
But
because
could you
we have
please,
to understand. We have to understand
could
exactly
you please pass my call over to the
Yeah.
producer?
Yeah, we will do. If you stay online now, the producer will take your number.
and we
Thank
need
you
to
ever so
understand.
much for listening to me. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
No,
Thank you.
I'm really
Thank you.
sorry to
Thank
hear
you.
your story. I mean, that's absolutely
Right,
awful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what
Yeah.
you're saying about the cuts and the thing is, you can go to your councillor, but you could go to an MP, for example. Would an MP say we can't do anything more?
No,
than
an
that?
MP could, in this instance, an MP could get involved.
So that'd be the next level of escalation.
So you can, because obviously MPs also work with, because now we have the police and crime commissioners. So I don't know who the police and crime commissioner is that covers Leicestershire.
Andy Street is our one, isn't it?
No, in the
No,
Leicester.
in Leicester.
Oh, in Leicester,
So
in
our-
Midlands is
Leicester's
ours.
East Midlands,
Oh,
isn't
okay.
it?
Andy Street is
Is
the West Midlands,
Midlands one,
is
yeah.
elected mayor.
Okay.
So the elected mayor is the person that's in charge of the combined authority,
Mm-hmm.
the West Midlands Combined Authority. David Jameson is for the West Midlands Police. He's a police and crime commissioner.
Yep.
But Leicester
So
comes in
I
the
don't know
east.
who, because each
Yeah,
area
the East
has
Midlands
its
would be
own.
different.
Yeah, so I don't know who the police and crime commissioner is for the East Midlands. So personally, as a councillor, the way that I work is first I will try and work with the local
So
team.
if she came to you, what would so
Yeah.
actually I'll ask Gurmeet, so because you're in Warsaw, what would your steps be if someone came to you like that? Regardless of what religion is, it's still a hate
Yeah.
crime.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Regardless
Hate crime.
the religion, first of all, you got to listen to all the problem. Listen to all the problem. Police is the first contact. Then the welfare. I think she's already tried. I think then the community should put. That's where the community comes in.
Yep.
Our community should help her.
Yeah, the Gurdwaras and the communities out there.
That's
should
what
say.
community is for.
Yeah, because it sounds like, I think she was just saying that she feels scared to be in her house. I think a lot of mess was made.
Yep.
And I think, going
Well,
on...
it's a raid. It sounds like it's a targeted crime.
Yeah.
So personally, I mean, you need to understand. It sounds like quite a complex case.
Yeah.
So you need to understand. Well, what sources of help has she tried to access?
Yep.
So she said she tried to access victim support. She tried to go to the police. She's tried to go to a
So
council.
if she came to, say if she came to you, she'll go to your office, for example.
Yeah.
And how long would you spend with her going over this?
I would understand. I would sit down. I would fully understand the complexity of the case. It
Yep.
sounds quite a complex case.
Yep.
And obviously because she's got special needs, because she's got disabilities, I need to take that into account as well.
Sure.
So firstly, if I would try and go to the local team, but I think there is a race hate division as well. So that division needs to get involved with this.
See, this is
particular-
what I was saying about. It's great me talking to you now and you telling me this, but it'd be great if this was in the Gurdwaras and people in the
Yeah.
community. So we've got another call coming in at the moment. So hello and welcome to Sangat TV. Hello.
हेलो हाँ जी
सत श्री अकाल
सत श्री अकाल जी हाँ जी
हाँ जी
सत श्री अकाल जी।
सत श्री अकाल question
Sat Sri Akal, Aunty Ji.
सत श्री अकाल बेटा ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੌਣ ਬੋਲਦੇ?
ਆਂਟੀ ਜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੈਨਲ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਸੀ
ਅੱਛਾ,
ਸਾਨੂੰ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਾਂ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਪੁੱਤ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਪੁੱਛੋ ਆਂਟੀ।
ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਬੇਟਾ, ਉਹ ਨਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਰੀ ਰੋਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਲੀਵੇ ਨਿਕਲਦੀ ਆ, ਇਹੋ ਕੂਨਰ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਣਾ ਸੀ ਕੁੜੀ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਉਹ ਆ ਕੇ ਥੋੜੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਕਹਿ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਫਾਈ ਕਰਾ ਦੇਵੇ। ਜੇ ਉਹ ਰਵੀ ਸਿੱਟਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਹੁਣ ਚੱਕਣਾ ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਕੌਂਸਲ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਆ ਨਾ ਕੰਮ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਜੀ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨੰਬਰ ਮੇਰਾ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸਰ ਤੋਂ। ਉਹਦਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਲੀਫਲੇਟ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਆਏ ਹੋਣੇ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕਰੋ, ਆਈ ਵਿਲ ਗੈਟ ਇਟ ਸੌਰਟਡ।
ਪਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਫੋਨ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ, ਕੋਈ ਇੱਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ। ਮਤਲਬ ਜਦੋਂ ਹੁਣ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਫਿਰ ਸਾਡੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਹੋਊਗੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਵੋਟ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ, ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜੇ ਏਦਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਵੋਟ ਵੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਦੇਣੀ ਆ ਏਦਾਂ, ਹਨਾ?
ਆਂਟੀ ਜੀ ਵੋਟ ਦੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਆ, ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋਗੇ, ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ
ਸਾਡੀ ਐਲੀਬੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਰਬੀ ਸਿੱਟਿਆ ਪਿਆ ਆ, ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ
ਆਂਟੀ ਜੀ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਫਰਾਈਡੀ ਰੋਡ ਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਉੱਥੇ ਐਲੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਅਲੋਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੰਡੇ ਮਿਲੇ ਸੀ ਸਟਾਲ ਤੇ, ਹੈ ਨਾ? ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਛਾਣ ਲਿਆ ਆਂਟੀ। ਮੈਂ ਵੀ 3 ਵਾਰੀ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਐਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਚੱਕਦੇ ਆ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਸਿੱਟੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ।
ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿੱਟਿਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ, ਪਏ ਨੂੰ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਮੈਂ ਐਲੀਬੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੀ ਰੋਜ਼ ਲੰਘ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ, ਹਾਂਜੀ ਤੋਂ ਰੋਡ ਨੂੰ।
I have
reported it to the council. ਨੀਅਰਲੀ 2 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ ਉਹ ਪਏ ਨੂੰ। ਹੋਰ ਨਵਾਂ ਰਬਿਸ਼ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਹਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਸਿੱਟਿਆ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ। ਉਹੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਪਏ ਆ, ਉਹੀ 2-4 ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਡਰੋਜ ਸਿੱਟੇ ਆ, ਉਹੀ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਨਵਾਂ ਚਲੋ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਕ ਅੱਧਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਬਹੁਤਾ ਕੋਈ ਸਿੱਟ ਵੀ ਦਿੰਦਾ, ਪਰ ਉਸ ਰਬਿਸ਼ ਪਏ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਤ ਨੀਅਰਲੀ 2 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ।
ਆਂਟੀ ਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਸੁੱਖੀ ਤੋਂ
ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੇਲਾ ਵੀ ਚੱਕਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ। ਪਹਿਲਾਂ 2 ਸਾਲ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਸਵਾਰਿਆ ਸੀ, ਕੌਂਸਲ ਵਾਲੇ ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ, ਘਾਹ ਘੂ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੱਟ ਕੇ ਗਏ ਸੀ, ਦਰਖਤ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਨਾ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਪੂਰੇ 2 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ। 2 ਸਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇੱਧਰ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਮੂੰਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੁਣ, ਤੇ 2 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਆ ਬੇਟਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਰਬਿਸ਼ ਪਿਆ ਆ। ਫੋਟੋ ਤੂੰ ਖਿੱਚ ਲਾ, ਉਹ ਭਾਵੇਂ 6 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਵੀ ਤੂੰ ਦੇਖੀ ਉਹੀ ਰਬਿਸ਼।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਪਰਸੋਂ ਦੀ ਫੋਟੋ ਖਿੱਚੀ ਸੀ।
ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਪਏ,
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਵੀ, ਹਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਸੋਫੇ ਵਗੈਰੇ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਪਏ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਸੀ। ਮੈਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਰਹਿਨੀ ਆ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਕੋਲ, ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਹਰੇਕ ਦਿਨ
ਹਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ। ਹਾਂਜੀ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਦੀ 2 ਵਾਰੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕਣ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਐਲੀਬੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੀ ਲੰਘ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ। ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਡੋਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਘਰ ਬਣਾ ਦੇਣਾ ਉਹਨੇ, ਫੇਰ ਤਾਂ ਕੰਧ ਜਿਹੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੀ, ਫੇਰ ਤਾਂ ਬਾਲੇ ਡੇਂਜਰਸ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ, ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਖੜਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ।
ਆਂਟੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਨੰਬਰ ਨਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਡਿਊਸਰ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਕਾਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ।
You know, what I was going to say as well, you know, just speaking on that front, you know, every councillor's got different jobs to do, but what all the callers are saying doesn't represent what Sangat TV or what ourselves are saying.
Of course.
Everyone's their own opinion, and you know, every councillor's got busy schedules, and some things can be done, some things can't be done.
Yeah, the thing is, there's a difference between someone reporting it to the council and the councillor.
Yeah, you see, for example, just here you were saying you've not reported to me, and
not reported it to me.
But I've reported it to the
council.
Yeah,
but then there's no trail of it, and this is where issues happen. Say, for example, in the private sector where I work. If an issue happened like this, we'll have a remedy or a solution, a third party software where we'll raise a case with a case ID, and that'll be seen, and it's reported to that group. In that group, anyone will be able to see who raised it, when it was raised, the progress of it, and which department it's in.
The difference there is that you're gonna deal with it within your department. The way that our role works is, firstly, people would go to the relevant department. If the relevant department hasn't dealt with it, that's when they come to us as a secondary measure.
But why will that relevant department not deal with it?
They should deal with it. But if, for example, if for some reason there's some sort of hitch and they haven't dealt with it and the resident isn't happy, that's when they come to us as a secondary measure. So, for example, today I had this morning 11:30 I had a phone call to say that their road recycling has been missed off for so many cycles. So they contacted me, and within a couple of hours I was able to sort it out. Now if someone reports it to me, Auntie G hasn't reported it to me because I've not had that case come to me. So if she reported it to me, I would raise the case with the depot and I would get it sorted. Right, so Suki said she's raised it with the council but not with me. Right.
Just because I was walking past there and I got that Fix My Street app. And I just took a photo and I reported it to the council because I live by that road where that issue is.
That should resolve it.
So that's great. Now, if we don't have the show on Sangat TV now, this auntie wouldn't have been able to phone in and tell her issues
but
that
then
she's got.
well, the thing is I've put leaflets, and every leaflet has got my telephone number on it.
But the thing is, you've got your leaflets and stuff like that. I understand, say for example the older generation now, and we're talking about the older community. This is where as a counsellor, you know, we need to interact better with our community centres, our goddaras for example, so that you have your flyers there and your events, it should be written there. Maybe as a counsellor you could, you know, you've got your spare time, go around not only the godwaras, the mandirs, the mosques, and give speeches and say this is what we do, and in their language, because you Urdu, Punjabi, you know, or Hindi, you'll understand Punjabi, you speak Punjabi. If you go to all these functions, these communities, and tell them this is what we do, leave your information there in their relative language, then it make it easy that people from these ethnic minorities can contact you. And the whole point of being a Sikh or a Punjabi speaking person in the council makes more sense then, because you actually can do something that a non-Punjabi speaking person couldn't do.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. Point taken.
Which would be
I mean, we do have surgeries, so we do get, like for example,
but where are your surgeries going to be?
In the local area, so we'll either have it at a school, so it's always advertised where our surgeries are, and we even have surgeries in one of the gurdwara as well. Right, but that's only once a month. But then in addition to that, to be honest, in our ward we don't wait for a surgery. So if someone wants to contact us, we get very few people that turn up at the surgeries. A lot of our casework comes in either via email, or someone will just phone into the Labour group office and leave a case for us, so we'll pick it up from there. So that's how a lot of our casework's generated in our ward. So
just going on to it, like, so you obviously worked with the godwaras in Walsall, for example, in the communities. I'll give you an example how cuts have affected Coventry, for example. We used to have a facility which was a park and ride, or a ring and ride service. So the elderly used to be able to call and get a lift to the Gurdwara with this council run bus service. I think you'd have to call 24 hours in advance. You weren't allowed to book any before that or later than that. So it's 24 hours in advance, so you'll do that. So I know we've got several Gurdwaras in Walsall and several in Birmingham, for example. Because with the austerity cuts, wouldn't it be great if as councillors and in the community, as community leaders almost, that we could bring the Gurdwaras together, bring different communities together, and have a bus service that the funding from the Gurdwara, because it's Sangat that pays for it, could pay for a bus service to be run to get these people.
We've got the Council of Sikh Gurdwaras, and all of the Gurdwara in Birmingham are a member of that. So that is something that they could have a discussion about. Because the thing is, we don't want.
But you see, the thing is, it's fine saying, and I'm not disrespecting the community or anything like that, but the way that politics will work, for example, Labour, Conservative and all that, and the way that councils work will be more clinical, more to the point and without any of this, and we're getting straight to the point and more clear and concise in a different plan, so you'll have more project management and different technical skills that these other councils might not have. And because you're seen as not from one particular party or a group or anything like that, but a councillor, just like here you can get the problem fixed. That's where as a councillor you could come in and say, okay, all these Gurdwaras we can get together, we could have this service that's running at this time, and see if you could split the donations coming into it, and then maybe the council could contribute a bit, but obviously not if you've got real struggles. So you couldn't contribute, but at least you could help them bring together and bring that liaise that meeting together.
I'm doing something similar to that in my ward, but it's not with the Gurdwara, obviously. One of the things that, as a result of the cuts, I feel in my ward especially, because my ward was a very mixed ward, so one part of it was...
Which ward was yours in Birmingham?
Handsworth Wood ward.
Okay.
So my ward incorporated Handsworth, West Handsworth, and also all of Handsworth Wood. So the council always saw Handsworth Wood as an affluent area, and it always saw Handsworth as a deprived area. So very few wards were like that, where it had an affluent and a deprived area. So either wards were affluent or they were deprived. So mine was one of the very few that was mixed. And what happened is, because a portion of our ward was affluent, the other side also kind of suffered because resources never came to our ward because of the affluent.
See, going just on that point, you're just talking, there's an NHS study which was showing that, alcoholism, which is huge in the Sikh faith, we're not going to lie, it's awful, it's at worst of all the communities. Because they classified ourselves as Indian, and there was no subdivision on that front, our funding was cut because Hindus won't have that problem, Bangladeshis don't have that problem.
Which is why we're fighting for identity on the census.
Identity on the census, which is important that we're classified as Sikh. It is a horrible reason to say that you want to be identified as Sikh so you can have, heart problems on our drugs and our drink problems. But you see, as a councillor, you're fighting for them services. Can you specify these services? Can you have, for example, it's fine we vote for you and you know, as Sikhs, you represent something that's not the normal drugs and alcohol thing that we can see as a problem. Can you hold workshops? Can you, as counsellors, help have these workshops in the community? You know, because if you go to the Godward and you start speaking about drugs and alcohol, you know, most Godwards will be like, you can't talk about that. It's a taboo subject, unless it's all linked together with a council coming in and having run surgery. Because it's not only Godwaras, mosques, Hindus, all faiths have these issues.
Yeah, they do.
Whether you try to hide them or not, they're all going to have these issues. And everyone sees it as a taboo subject, and no family wants to talk about it because of our culture. Unlike Western culture, which is seen as there's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's different, you know, rehab centres. But you say that in the Asian community, and it's seen as it's frowned upon.
And the thing is, I mean,
but so as a counsellor, I can ask you, since again,
this is a big problem. I think we're shying away from this problem. Or we have to come open. We have to tell if you don't tell the problem, we can't go to doctor.
Can't deal with it.
We can't deal with it.
But could you, as a counsellor, run workshops like that in the?
I think we ought to, as we've seen, a lot of people, young people are dying. I mean, go to hospital. One of the doctor came to my shop once. He says, he was from South India. He says, "Do you drink whiskey?" I say, "I do a little bit." He says, "I'll tell you something. My ward is full of the Sikhs, all with the liver failure." This is a shame to hear this sort of problem. But it's a control. How we can help each other. It's the roots. The problem, I think, on the weddings, I think it came in the BBC report a couple of years ago. On the weddings, all the drink is served and the bhangra and all these things that promote the drink. I don't know how we can stop it.
I don't think it's just that though, because for example, because there's so many issues in our community that we don't discuss. Usually I feel that if someone has got an alcohol problem, there's an underlying issue as to why they turn to alcohol to numb and blank out the other problems.
I think there was a problem, like the first generation that came here, because it came from India, they suffered things that we didn't suffer. So they had to do manual labour, which was really hard manual labour, which is not around here because of health and safety. The factory labour, the foundry labours. They're struggling with English. They're struggling with, you know, sending money home, bringing their other relatives over. The pressures of trying to apply for this and apply that when you don't speak English. And obviously racism at that stage. That's why a lot of the older generation turn to alcohol at the end of the day to get out of it. And then the abuse happens and stuff like that. But what's happened is kids from them sort of households are seeing that sort of environment as being brought as a norm and continuing like that. But then again, like that, when are you going to get Sikh families where maybe now, where my son will speak to me about problems that he's facing, with relationship problems or drink problems or work problems, they'll be able to do that with me. But would they be able to do that with someone who's an older generation in the 60s? They wouldn't. So I mean, again, as a counsellor and from an ethnic minority, is there any sort of functions that you could do, for example, going to a Godwara or thinking of bringing communities together to speak about this?
There are a lot of things can be done. I think we need some people, right, who have this problem. I think there's some radio shows are done on this one as well. I have listened to some of the radios. They do this they talk about this thing. I think we got to get serious on this matter. It's affecting our community, and it's not representing the Sikhs the true picture.
I mean, there's an organisation called Aquarius that had some funding from the lottery. And there was a recognition that in the Sikh and the Polish community, we had high levels of issues in terms of drugs and alcohol abuse.
But you see that the Polish community is a good idea, because they've came exactly what the first generation were struggling with, where they're doing the manual labour, the cleaning, the hard donkey work. That's causing them, and with the language barrier, causing them to go into that. Okay, they might have drank at home just like we used to drink in India at home, in Punjab, but it's the same sort of...
I think you make an interesting point there, because a lot of where I live, we have a lot of the Eastern European community there. And I think when they first moved in, you have a choice to make as a resident that's been there for several years on how you accept them into the community. So when they first moved in, me and my husband could see that they were struggling. They didn't know when the bins went out. There was rubbish all outside the house. We got Google Translate on our phones. Luckily, you have technology these days. We found out what country they were from, and we just gave them the basic information.
That's really good. So as counsellor, that's sort of what
you know, you have to be the change that you want to see.
I think we're just running out of time now. So sorry for cutting you short on that, but it's been a real great discussion. So thank you all, everybody, for your time, and please make sure that you do vote on Thursday, the 3rd of May, and every vote counts. And thanks a lot for watching the show, and thanks for watching Sangat TV.
Can I just make one point before you just wrap up, please? So in Birmingham, we've had boundary changes. So one of the changes that are happening is in some of the wards, you've got 2 councillors you're electing, and in some you're electing 1 councillor. So a lot of people don't understand that you're going to have 2 votes on election day. So in Handsworth Wood, for example, you're going to have to elect 2 councillors. Each party's putting up 2 candidates.
Yep.
And in some wards, it's only
right.
1 candidate. So you need to find out whether you have 2 votes or 1.
Okay,
so
great.
in Handsworth Wood, you have 2 votes.
Yep.
So you've got 2 Labour Party candidates, of which obviously I'm one and Councillor Atwell's the other. And in Perry Bar as well, you've got 2 votes as well.
Can I just add on this one? My ward is Paddock Ward in Walsall. We got by-election at the same time.
Yep.
So we got 2 votes from Labour Party, 2 votes from Tory Party, 1 Liberal and 1 UKIP.
Okay.
And a lot of people are not aware of it. They don't even look at the leaflets. Please remember there are 2 votes in Paddock Ward and Walsall
Okay,
on Thursday.
Thanks a lot for your time, and please do look at the ballot paper properly, and please do ask questions when you get to the ballot box. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for watching Sangat TV.